Cincotta. Hey, everybody, Team Wilpers. This is Athlete Spotlight time, and I'm here. Thank you, Jacqui Cincotta, for joining me. What a pleasure! Saturday morning, and man, let's get into it. This is my favorite part of the week. So, we found a thing in common. Your family had some property or a house really close by to where I live, so
Yep.
you're very familiar with where I live, and
hmm
we both have some background here, huh?
Yeah, they we don't have it anymore. They sold it a few years ago, but yeah, they we had some property up by Ripton,
Yeah.
and with we had plans to there was plans to build kind of like a getaway for skiing. My family was very into skiing, particularly when I was younger. But life happens and it didn't materialize. But it's beautiful up there. I love
Oh,
it up there.
oh, that's my playground. If you go, so that's about 20 minutes from where I live on the other
hmm
side of Middlebury. I
And the
live in
Snow Bowl is where we would go skiing.
yeah, we're going there right after we get done with this. We're headed up there. My daughter's on the ski team there, and so yeah,
Oh,
Snowball's
cool.
awesome.
Best beef stew I ever had was at the Snow Bowl.
In the bread bowl, right? In the bread
How
bowl.
good it is.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's get into the training stuff. I mean, we want to hear about how you got into power zone training. Can you tell us about that? Were you an athlete? Were you a cyclist? Or just give us the lowdown on power zone training for you.
It's a little bit of a journey. I will try to keep it as short as I can. It really actually all started, believe it or not, when I was 3 years old. So when I was 3 years old, I was diagnosed with a illness called juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, or JRA for short. They call it now juvenile idiopathic arthritis, or JIA, but I still call it JRA. And basically, what JRA is, it's an autoimmune disease without a real known cause and without a cure. And basically, my immune system, for some reason, goes completely haywire and attacks and destroys my joints.
Quote.
When I was a kid, it also went after my eyes. And they thought that I was going to go blind when I was a little kid. Um, so knock on wood, luckily that did not happen. But I used to have to get like steroid drops and all this other stuff. So when I was a kid, my parents had me in physical therapy. I would see a rheumatologist. I was pretty sick. I was pretty sick. I had a very hard time walking. There were times I could not walk. It predominantly goes after my big joints, my ankles, and my knees. It has gone after my hands. I don't know if you can say, so my hands are crooked, like they're completely crooked. That's all from damage from my RA from when I was a little kid. Um, and I've always tried my best to try to keep it in remission. And I've been in remission a few times. Um, so what my parents did to get me moving, and what the suggestion of the physical therapist was, is try to get me moving. So the first they put me in dance as a way to try and get me to move, and it was probably better for society I don't dance and people see me
Me too. Me
it,
too. No
was,
dancing. Oh
I
boy.
knew all my steps, but I'm not really one for having a lot of rhythm. Um, but so my dad, he's really into baseball, and they put me in little league as a kid, and I fell in love with baseball, and eventually into softball. And I played baseball, softball all the way up through high school. So I was really into softball. Um, Played on a variety of different teams, from your in-town team all the way up to your elite traveling teams in the summer. I played, and in high school I got into field hockey. So I played field hockey and softball. And then after college, after high school, I was able to maintain a pretty steady remission. I had a few flare-ups along the way. But in college, I joined ROTC, Army ROTC, the
Yeah.
Reserve Officer Training
Yeah.
Corps, and I joined the Army. So I commissioned as a second lieutenant, and I deployed right after college, and I was in Iraq. as a medical services officer. So kind of like what I did is like kind of like health administration, but in a battlefield situation is really what I did.
Wow.
And making sure, my physicians and my docs and my medics and everybody, they have what they need to be able to provide care in a kinetic situation. So did that, was in the military up for 10 years.
Wow.
So I did that between the National Guard and the U.S. Army Reserve. And I came home, and then I started not feeling well again. And it took 4.5 years for a doctor to finally tell me that my RA had come back. And not only had it come back, it was very aggressive this time. And I could not walk. This was about
Yikes.
2015, and I absolutely could not walk. I gained a lot of weight. My inflammation levels were really, really high. It was just kind of bad all around. To the point my rheumatologist told me not to exercise, which for me is like taking away oxygen.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
afraid that if I put too much stress on my body, then I would destroy my body even more. So here I was, kind of fresh off a few years off of deployment. I had moved down to where I am now for a job, and could not walk. So
Yikes, Jacqui.
it took a while for me to get to a point. About a year later, in 2016, I was studying public health at the time for my master's in public health, and I decided to apply health behavioral theory on myself, because I was like, I've been in remission before. Why can I not get in remission now? What am I doing differently that I am so bad versus other flares I had in the past? And I started to really dive into the peer-reviewed literature looking at nutrition and inflammation,
Yeah.
and applied that on myself, also applying behavioral theory and trying to work on behaviors on myself. Trying to steadily do some light walking, things like that. And then over time, my inflammation level started to go down. I was on a very high dosage of medication. I was on something called methotrexate, which is a low dose chemotherapy, which is
No methotrexate.
yeah, yeah.
My son, my wife have both been through cancer treatments,
Yeah.
and my father-in-law has taken methotrexate, I think, in the past because he also has RA. So
Oh wow. Yeah, it's a tough medication to be on.
yeah, yep,
It's a tough medication to be on. I was on something called Plaquenil,
yep,
amongst other NSAIDs. And between the methotrexate and the Plaquenil, it takes months for that to actually uptake and take an effect.
right.
By the time that my doctor said it had taken effect, they were like, your levels are just not better, and we need to start looking at biologics. And I sat in the doctor's parking lot crying, calling my mom. Like, what do I do? Like, why is this happening the way this is happening? And that's when she told me, she goes, think about what you used to do where you felt great. So that's what led me thinking about applying my
Moms
own
are the best.
studies. Moms are the best.
Moms are the best.
They are the best. And so that's when I started to apply what I was learning in public health on myself. So I was like my own little experiment. And for those that are interested, it's called there's what's out there's called health behavior or health behavioral theory, where your behavior can help impact your health without realizing it, whether you're doing it or not. You can identify barriers that you think are preventing to try to achieve health. So I did that on myself, and my levels started to come down, and my doctor cleared me to exercise. So a year before all that happened, I had bought a Peloton. So I
Yeah,
bought
I
a
was wondering where
Peloton.
the cycling comes in. All right.
I
Woohoo.
had bought a Peloton in February of 2015. So I was a really early
Yeah,
adopter.
totally.
Remember, there was like, I don't know, maybe 30 people on the leaderboard. Like, it was really small. I remember when I bought my bike, I got like 10 free trips to the studio. I got all
Funny.
this free swag because they were a brand new company. And I thought it was kind of brilliant, this whole idea of for one price, I can take as many indoor cycling classes as I wanted instead of paying $28 to go to the indoor cycling classes that I went to. But when I got my bike, that's when I started not feeling well. So unfortunately, I didn't get to really ride. So as soon as that I was cleared, I hopped back on. And it was very humbling because I was so horrifically out of shape. I was having just even a hard time breathing, and I literally just felt like my inner athlete had died. This person that just I really felt like I was just really starting completely all over again after, over, I would say, 2 decades of fitness, really trying to take care of myself as best as I could. So how I got into Power Zone training was there was a new instructor coming to Peloton. His name was Matt Wilpers. And I was like, all right, well, I'll hop on and see what this guy is, what his riding style is like. And I still remember it because you don't forget it. And the screen came on, and there was this dude on this bike, and he had a backwards hat and these giant bolt-like arms. And he was like, what's up? Welcome to Peloton. And I'm going to introduce you to these zones. And this was way, way back when he was still doing the low zone 3, the mid zone 3, and the high zone 3. I mean, I am if there's a Peloton OG or a Power Zone OG, I go all the way from day one.
Yeah. Wow. Good.
And I remember taking this ride, and now looking at it, it was basically all zone 5, zone 6. Now understanding what the zones were. And after I peeled myself off my bike, wondering what had just happened to me, I actually said to myself, this is what's going to help get me back in shape.
Yeah. Oh,
this is
awesome.
what's going to get me healthy. This is what's going to really, I think, be able to get me back to a state of fitness. Because I remember him talking about being in your current fitness. And I'm an exercise science. I have a bachelor's in exercise science. And never in my studies did we ever talk about this whole idea of current fitness. What is your current fitness to get to where you want to go? It's always, where do you want to go?
Right.
And you have to train to get to that point. But never this idea of what is your own intensities? What is your own fitness to get to where you want to go? And I thought it was kind of brilliant. And I latched on. And I just wanted to learn and understand more about this whole idea of working in your current fitness and intensities and time under tension. That's how I got into Power Zone. So from the time I started Power Zone training in October 2016 to March 3rd, 2017, and March 3rd is a very important date to me because that was the day my doctor told me I was in remission. So after years and years and years of being sick, I was able to achieve a state of remission just in a few short months. And
you contribute the bike as being a big component of helping
I really
you
do. I really
because you're training at your level, at your fitness,
yes,
and not
exactly.
training blind.
Exactly. I really attribute Power Zone training, as well as applying kind of the public health principles on myself, to being able to get to that state. And then in July of that year, with some of the road riders, I did my first century. So I went from, in the span of a year and a half, 2 years of not being able to walk and having to leave the military, which broke my heart because I was sick, to achieving remission and riding my first century.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that's why I think I just love Power Zone training because it is highly effective. And I do truly believe that regardless of your fitness, having been literally from my own version of phase 0 to where I am, to where I got to and where I want to go, it is completely achievable. And I guess that's where I wanted to personally also help others out there.
Oh, that's amazing. That's an amazing journey. And so I have a few things to just touch on. And number one is the education component. Yes, I'm an exercise science major as well, and there was nothing about power zone training,
That's
but
right.
it is so logical once you start learning it, and that's exactly how I used it to train myself. I got into racing and everything. I'm like, wait a minute, I need to learn about power zone training, and made sense using my background. It all kind of came together. So that's really cool that you were able to use what you've learned to heal yourself for the most part, and learn
Yep.
behavioral therapy and power zone training to really get back to where you wanted to be
Yep.
from
And I will
being.
be in remission. What is it? Seven 7 years in March. So
That's
I've been able
amazing.
to stay in remission.
All right, good. And so, yeah, let's talk about moving forward. What do you want to do? You have some goals? Do you have some event goals, some process goals? Do you have some health goals? What
Yeah,
do you
I
want to
kind
do in
of
the next year?
this past year was a bit of a tough year, particularly for my family. I lost my grandmother,
Oh,
and
sorry.
it just hit me very hard, extremely hard. And it was just an overall kind of stressful year, you know, dealing with that. And I felt, and then I'm finishing school for my DRPH, Doctor of Global Public Health.
Oh, wow.
And so to facilitate paying for school, I sold a lot of my fitness equipment to help pay for school, including my gravel bike. So what I'm hoping to do is I'm finishing school this year. That is the goal. And hopefully we get my gravel bike back, which I'm excited about. And I have a gravel grinder that I have been wanting to do for a few years.
Yeah.
It's an 80-mile gravel grinder. It is it'll be a tough challenge, but I think it would be awesome to do. So that is the big event goal for me this year. Uh,
When is that?
it's in June. It's
In June. And do you mind telling us where it is? Where?
It's in Loudoun County, down
In
here
Virginia.
in the DC area.
Okay, yeah, cool. So local and in June, and
Yep.
80 miles. Have you done a gravel grinder before, or you've
I've
had a
done
gravel bike?
gravel.
Have you done events, or you've done camps, or what?
I did a camp. I did a gravel camp with the Hunter Allen back in 2022.
Whoa,
Um,
awesome. And for those
and
who don't know, Hunter Allen is, well, Hunter Allen wrote the book literally on power zone training, on power uh, training and racing with a power meter,
yep,
and among other things. So, yeah, wow. So you did a camp with Hunter.
yep, yep. I think I have training and racing with a power meter at this point completely memorized. I
Yeah,
reference it so much. I have it on my bookshelf. I also have the triathlon one that he wrote. I don't do triathlon, but I read it because I do enjoy running. So he has information in there about running with power as well. So read that as well. Hunter's awesome. Like Hunter Allen is just an awesome human being. He's so down to earth. He's so easy to talk to. He's brilliant when it comes to cycling. Like just absolutely brilliant. I mean, and having Hunter Allen himself teaching you cycling was just like blew my mind.
that's amazing.
Blew my mind.
That's
And I
amazing.
learned to really at that
I'm gonna
camp.
pick your mind from here on out. That's like a link to the Godfather of power
Yeah,
zone training.
that
That's
it's
amazing.
exactly. And the one thing I learned about gravel riding is it's a completely different way to ride. It's got road elements. I don't mountain bike. But for example, when you come to a turn, you come to an apex in a turn, you turn differently at the apex of a turn on a gravel bike than you do on a road bike. When you descend, thinking about how you descend on a gravel bike, especially with the additional, the additional, gravel and such on the road, it affects how you do your cadence. If I would say for anyone out there who's interested in getting on a bike, if you're a natural low cadence rider, gravel might be for you. Like, because gravel riding requires lower cadence. I mean, it just does because of the resistance against the road. So if you are a natural low cadence rider, or you tend to rely more on your musculoskeletal system, and you find that you tend to be more reliant on your musculoskeletal system, say, versus your cardiovascular system at a higher cadence, gravel might be for you. Like, that's kind of what I learned about myself about riding gravel.
So you like the lower cadence,
I
you
like
like
a bit of
the
a lower cadence. I like relying a little bit more on my musculoskeletal system, and it's because, just as Christine says, on Peloton, you find what you're built for. And at one point, WKO5, my data told me that I was 65% fast twitch fibers and
whoa.
about 35% slow twitch fibers.
WKO5 being an analytic tool that
Yeah.
developed by Hunter and Training Peaks
Yep.
and all of
Yep.
that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You're a super data nerd like I am. It's a great way to kind of get an idea of some of your deeper data and your deeper metrics. And so I like to understand, like, what are my strengths and what are my limiters, and what are my limiters that I really need to work on, which for me, believe it or not, which tends to be everyone's favorite, is endurance. I like power zone max rides.
Yeah.
I call them, intervals of death, like high, short intervals of zone 6, zone 7, under overs with zone 5 and zone 6. But I also like long, steady intervals, usually typically at sweet spot, or lower zone 4. But power zone endurance rides and endurance, I just want to, like, poke my eye out with a spoon. I don't like it. It is the absolute hardest thing for me to do. By far the hardest thing for me to do. So what do I have to do to improve my endurance? To improve
More of those. More of what you don't like.
more of those. So I
Yeah.
spent, what was it, a good like 3 to 4 months just really, really focusing on endurance a few years back.
Especially if you're getting into gravel races and an 80-mile race, you're going to be on your bike for 4 or 5 hours.
Yep. Yep.
Probably
And
five
I was
5+
able to
hours.
show, like, WKO5 actually showed that I had a new split in my muscle fibers, that I was now at about a 55%
So
slow
you're
twitch.
able to see the adaptations going
Yep.
along, and that's really cool. And it's really
So,
cool how WKO it kind of has a graph of
mm-hmm.
how your pedal strokes go and where you want to be for a gravel rider versus, say, a mountain biker. It sounds like, from what you're saying, that you should probably get into mountain biking and technical,
Yeah, I would
hard
like to.
off-road stuff, but we have to keep you safe. There's the whole technical going over rocks and roots and stuff, but that's
I
exactly
don't know
how.
if me jumping over rocks is a good idea.
You don't have to jump. I have a rule that I try and stay on the ground. The other mountain bikers, the younger ones, laugh at me because I don't like. I'm too old to jump and take my bike in the air. But I still love to rip around the trails, and it's all just fast twitch. There are times where you have to go full on max output to get up a little rock, step up something or other, and so things like that. It's just a natural power zone training there. The higher endurance one,
Yep.
higher intensity ones.
Yep. So that's what I love about power zone training, is you can actually see results, in terms that are quantifiable, and I would also say qualifiable, because the quantifiable metrics, your number metrics, are great. If you see improvement, and even if you don't, like FTP, for example, FTP is an estimate of your current fitness at a given state and time, right?
Yeah,
Like,
very good. Yeah.
and the 20-minute FTP test is again an estimate, and I mean, if you really want to get a good idea of your true estimate of your FTP test, do the 60-minute test, which
1
I have
hour.
done.
1 hour, all out.
Which I have done, which is a whole new level of joy, let me tell
I
you.
think we'd have a lot smaller team if we made everybody do that instead of the 20-minute.
Right,
I think
right.
everybody would run for the hills, as they
But
should.
I think with FTP, there's a lot of focus on it, and I think but it's an estimate, and there's so many other things to look at, I think, in regards to your cycling fitness, where I still have to be kind to myself as well, because sometimes I'll get wrapped around my FTP number, but I'll be like, okay, but I just rode nonstop for 4 or 5 hours. Okay, well, my FTP might be this, but if I have an FTP of this, but I can only ride for X amount of time, but my goal was to get to this, well, that's okay, because I am in my current fitness. I'm working where I want to go. And I had to learn that too as well, is when I take FTP tests, I don't try to strive for an FTP number. I just strive to do what I can do on the bike.
In
So
time, I think is important. I'm trying to talk about FTP tests, especially as we're starting this new training block, and
mhm,
it's just, I think a lot of people come to us and think that FTP is the end all of
right,
metrics, and it's really not. So
really
thank you
not.
for bringing all that up. But a mark of your fitness in time, like it could be different from day to day, the
Mhm,
result. But if you look at it over a year or over 5 years, maybe it'll trend up, or maybe mine's not going anywhere. I
yep,
peaked out 2012, 2012. That's it. It's not going higher than that. I just know that. Maybe I can train and get it higher, but I'm at my limit of training, and
yep.
so it's not going anywhere.
And
So
then if I'm
we look
on
at other metrics. Yes.
exactly, and then I've also you also might have an indoor FTP and an outdoor FTP. Your indoor FTP is likely to actually be a little bit lower than your outdoor FTP. If you use erg like I do, which is a whole new level of fun, if you haven't tried erg yet, your FTP might feel harder than your indoor FTP because of the consistent resistance around the 360 degree of the pedal stroke, where when you ride without that resistance, you're only having the resistance on a part of the pedal stroke and not on the entire pedal stroke. And that's why I like working out in erg, because it is harder. It's challenging, and I find that it was very helpful in also trying to help rebuild my endurance, because if you lower your cadence while you're in erg, or if you, oh no, oh,
You're done.
it'll just stop.
You're
So it
done. Oh, I'm
forces
trying
you
to
to
think
keep
of what they
going.
called it, the death spiral. The death
Yes, the
spiral.
spiral of death. Yes, the spiral of death, and it literally feels like you're in like concrete trying to pedal your way out. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So, but
right.
I know there's a lot of debate out there about whether you should do erg, you shouldn't do erg.
Oh, I
I'm a big
like erg
fan of
mode
erg.
because even if I do an easier ride in erg mode, or a string of them, two, three of them, I get outside and my pedal technique, my cadence, my pedal stroke just feels so much more efficient when I get back
Yep,
outside.
yep. Yeah, so that's so I train now on a smart trainer.
Uh-huh.
Uh uh I have a bike that's dedicated just to my trainer.
Yep,
Um
me too.
which which I highly recommend for anyone who's interested in doing a smart trainer. Just find yourself a decent cheap bike, one that can take a lot of work on it.
Yep.
Um, keep your components on it clean. Um, I personally recommend at least a 105 or rival drivetrain minimum. Personally, you don't need the high accoutrement on the
No,
uh,
no. I think, yeah, find a
but
used bike. I've had a lot of clients do that. Find a used bike and buy it, because
yep,
then you do have the option to take it outside if you want to, if you need it, or if you have a friend visiting or whatever. Then
yep,
you have an extra outside bike. So
yep,
I like that option. That's what I have.
yep.
Um,
So
well,
that's how I train.
oh man, I'm excited to see how the gravel grinder comes out, and how you prepare for it, and the timing of it actually times out well with what we have in store here. So if you wanted to do this, roughly this training plan that we're doing leading up to that, you'd be in good shape. You might want some more volume in there to
Yep,
build up to an 80 mile, but the overall flow or arc or periodization of what I have planned out is going to lead you to be ready in June for
that's
something like
awesome.
that with a few tweaks. So that'll be cool to travel along with you on that journey and see how you do, and just hopefully have fun. But that's an awesome goal. What about I wanted to touch on just training within a community. I think you have a lot to offer to it, to that component. We're building a team, you know.
Yes.
We like to say everybody's on the team and not part of the community because it's a little more involved than just a community. We're all training together, and although we might all have different goals, but uh, talk to me about what that means to you, training it on the team.
It means everything to me. It really does. So I am the administrator for the Peloton Autoimmune Warriors group. So if there are people out there that have autoimmunity that are looking for a safe place to just be able to kind of vent with what you're dealing with, as you also trying to gain just be able to move and exercise, because it can be extremely painful, there is a place for you. You don't have to be Peloton. You can be anyone to join to do that. So I do that. I was the founder of the Peloton Road Riders. So that is a community that is very, very near and dear, close to my heart. I don't administrate it anymore just because of my schedule, my work schedule, and everything. I handed it off. But that community is incredible. The Road Riders meet up all over the United States for rides. They have a kit, that we ride in, and the mantra is, Road Riders ride together. And they do a number of different meetups that also have no drop rides. So a few years ago, a bunch of us went to Bear Mountain up in New York, and we all made it up, and we all came down.
Oh,
and
nice!
It was amazing. But in terms of community, I can talk about my personal preference and also what the nerdy evidence size, of me, says about in community. So the nerdy peer-reviewed public health side of me, there's a lot of very strong evidence out there that when you are with a community that is supportive, you can actually improve your health and you can improve your fitness. But just me as a person, my own experience is when you find your people and you find people that support you and you support them and you are with each other to help achieve goals, one together, you can achieve them. And you also can improve in your health and your fitness and stay there. And I do think a big part of my personal remission is because I did find a community that helps keep me active, that's always been very supportive, and that I can enjoy going out and riding with and having fun and joking around. I specialized personally in my public health studies in community design, so community intervention and design, and how you can actually evaluate whether or not those programs work. And I do believe that when you have a community structure that is supportive, that can do what it needs to do, you can achieve goals together as a team. I'm a big fan of being together as a team. I wouldn't say necessarily from a competitive standpoint. I'm very competitive with myself, which I need to be a little kinder to myself sometimes. And even remembering that I have things that I contend with, that regardless of how fit I get, how, whatever I get, I still have to contend with those things that are out of my control. And I think that's one thing about being in a community is sometimes you also see all these things that people are doing that maybe you feel like you need to do or you should do and you're not doing, and it makes you feel bad. And I don't ever want people to ever feel that way in a community.
Right.
It should be about who you are as a person and where you are and what you want to achieve and what you need to do specifically to get there. And then having a team and a community to facilitate getting there.
Oh, you've summed it up so nicely, and I was kind of thrown into this community, which has been amazing. And the journey, my journey over the past year, I've learned all of what you just summed up. and trying to be the leader of this community, I kind of knew it, but you summed it up beautifully. And one thing I just want to touch on.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're doing an awesome job. It's been what I love this community group. It's easygoing, it's relaxed, we have fun, we can joke around. It's not taking things too seriously, but still trying to achieve goals. And it's achievable for everybody, regardless of where you are in your health and fitness journey. And I think
Right.
that's
I know. I welcome people and look forward to the newer people who are signing up and wondering if they can do it. Like it's going to be too challenging, but yes, you absolutely can. That's
yep,
what Power Zone training is about. But yeah, the community part, we got to keep this thing welcoming
yep.
and positive, and so far so good. It's been amazing.
I
So the
can say
accountability, just
from experience,
yeah,
I will say from my own personal experience, when I say I could like barely turn the pedals when I started getting, I mean, when
yeah,
I really came back after that bout of my RA, yes, you can. You
yeah,
absolutely can do it.
yeah,
But do it at the way you need to do it. And if you need to modify, modify. It's
yeah,
okay. It's
yeah.
okay. Um, you're not breaking any rules. You're not doing anything wrong. If you need to
No,
take some time off, if you're gently kind of re getting into the game or just starting for brand new, you know, it's a not, it's something new. Your body has to get used to it. So you might need more rest days. You might need to do a drop down week every third week instead of every fourth week. You might need to have a lower progressive overload. So the recommendation is what, 10%. A 10% overload per week is high.
that's a
that's a
lot.
that's a lot. Um, and a typical ramp rate for power zone training, I think, is trying to keep it about, if you look at TSS and CTL and all that fun nerdy stuff, is usually about 7. Well, that's still a lot for a
7 is a
progressive
lot. Yeah,
overload per
I go
week.
even lower than that
So
with
I would,
which we're
bring it
getting way
down.
beyond the scope. But yeah,
Right. Yeah.
ramp
So
rates in the
like
area of 5
five.
are more
Um,
sustainable.
the plans that I made for the autoimmune group, the power zone plans I made for the autoimmune group, I brought the ramp rate down to like 2 to 3. I mean,
Yeah, good.
very low at a
Make
three
it make
at a 3 week
sense.
drop.
Make it make sense. Don't hurt
Yep.
people out of nowhere
Yep.
or overload. The other part that you said earlier is and keep it there. So as we all are aging and getting older, and uh, you can really use this as a primary mode of exercise for a
Yep.
long, long time to keep you healthy in old age. Because our goal is not just to get old, but to get old and be healthy
Hmm.
as we age.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so yeah, so cool. Well, and I think the community is a huge part of that. So cool, Jackie. What do you have for me? Any questions that you've thought up?
Well, first I got to know where you got that shirt.
Yeah, thank you. I put that on for you. I told you before we started recording that I knew you would appreciate it. My wife found that for me. She makes fun of me for Strava and my devices pinging after I get done with the ride. She's like, "Oh boy, Greg's done with his ride." So she found the Strava shirt for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So maybe my question for you is, what is it you love about coaching? What is it that makes you come and be a coach every day?
Look at all of these awesome stories. I get to be a part of everyone's journey. Oh my gosh. So your whole story is amazing. And although I've not worked as a coach directly with you, others that I have been overweight, obese, and not necessarily targeting weight loss, but have dropped 50, 60 pounds and improved their life substantially, changed their life forever, going off diabetes medicine, training for races and getting people to competitions, uh, just helping people stay healthy is an amazing thing to be a part of so many people's lives. So it really does keep me going.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I
awesome.
wake up excited to interact with folks who are reaching goals and setting goals and training.
That is awesome. That is awesome. What's the hardest event you've ever done? Hardest race, hardest event you've ever done. And would you do it again?
Ooh, good question. Good question. Well, the hardest event for me was before I was a cyclist. Somebody roped me into the New York City. I think it was a 5 borough ride, or it was a century. I was not a trained cyclist at the point, and I was 20 something years old, and I was working as a personal trainer in New York City, so I got on my bike and tried to ride 100 miles. And at mile 75 out in Brooklyn at the aquarium, I had to take a nap underneath the table at the rest stop. I was bonked. I was done. I had no idea what was way in over my head. So that was a long time ago. A few years go by, I started actually training and racing and getting into it. And oh man, there's so many. I raced every weekend for a good 11, 12 years.
Wow.
Mount Snow National Championships. My derailleur broke. We were doing
Oh,
3 laps of like a clover leaf. So you would go up Mount Snow, come back down, go up again, come back down. I had one more time to go back up. My derailleur broke, so I was stuck in the hardest gear. I put my bike over my shoulder and walked up
yeah.
Mount Snow, going about the same speed you would ride up, and was able to come down without missing a losing any places. That was pretty hard. That's like a 3 hour race. Most recently, I did Vermont Overland
Hmm.
just in August, and I'm getting notices now that the sign up is again on January 1st. So that one I want to do again. Now that's a gravel race, but there are so many class 4 roads that you would not call gravel riding
Hmm.
whatsoever. It's really mountain bike trails, and that one really suited me. It was, I think, 8,000 feet of climbing in 50 some miles. Uh, I didn't come in quite trained to the peak for that one, but I think this year I would like to see what I could do for it. That was a fun one. I've only done a couple events every year since 2012, and that one kind of beat in my backyard. It's about an hour away, and that was a lot of fun. So I'll take a look at that one again for this year.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, right. I think
Awful
you're,
and fun at
yeah.
the same time.
Well, January 1st, 9 a.m. If you could get in, there's like you have to sit there and hit the tab. I don't. How did I get in last year? I found somebody who was giving up their entrance and took it. But yeah, that one suited me. So um,
I got to get my cycling fitness up at least for another good year before I would tackle something, something,
well,
something.
you've got your event there. You've got your event in June, and see how it goes. And yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of others to look at. So,
Yeah, we
oh, that's
have
so
a
cool.
gravel group here, like a group that does like it's like a club
Uh-huh.
that does gravel club rides. So I like to go out and ride with them because then I can get used to riding on gravel. You're with a group of people. They have different pace groups. The one thing though about the gravel where I go riding gravel, it is very hilly. So you might ride 30 miles, but you'll do about 2,500 feet of elevation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 That's anything around here. If you go 10 miles, you're going to do 1,000 feet,
Oh,
and so and more. It's really hard to where I live to not do that much. I've got a couple routes that are more flat, but yeah. So, anything else? Any other advice for folks who are just getting into power zone training?
I think my biggest advice is be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Like finishing a ride is is incredible. Finishing a ride with a smooth graph is incredible. Finishing a ride that looks, that's not smooth is incredible. Even if you don't finish the ride, it's still incredible. Be kind to yourself. Don't focus so much on just your FTP. There's so much more. I mean, like my love of power zone training, I went and I got myself certified. Like I just wanted to go and truly understand and learn all about power zone training. And one of the biggest things I learned through going through a more formal training process and the amount of time that I've been trying to learn and understand power zone training is your fitness is so much more than just your FTP. Your FTP is an estimate of where you are. Be kind to yourself. There's no such thing as a high or low FTP. Your FTP is where you are at a period of time. And through focused training and having fun, what does Matt say? Train hard, train smart, have fun. Your fitness will improve when you have fun because you're enjoying it. So that is, I think, the biggest takeaway from the years that I've been power zone training between on a regular on a road bike and on a Peloton is be kind to yourself, don't focus so heavily just on your FTA.
That's awesome. Shout it from the mountain, huh? Most importantly, have fun, and the feeling of being proud of yourself is there's no better drug in the world, I think. So when you accomplish something, and accomplishment, proud, fun, all of that stuff. So well said. Well, Jacqui, thank you. This has been amazing. I'm gonna hit you up for more help, and please, everybody, ask questions. Jacqui's one of the many who are in there answering questions, and how lucky we all are to have you be part of the team.
Well, thank you for asking me to be in your athlete spotlight this week. It was an honor and a privilege. Thank you very much.
Yeah, totally. All right, everybody, we will see you